What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Stay Fresh production. And it is that time. Got my computer here. I picked some of my favorite questions that you guys asked me, and there was a lot of really good ones. So first of all, I want to apologize to those of you whose question was not picked. It's not because I didn't like it, it's just because there were so many to choose from, and I was really kind of looking at the ones that were the most thoughtful to me. I didn't take a whole lot of time formulating my answers. I actually wanted to keep that as spontaneous as possible. Some of them I kind of gave a little bit of thought into my answer, but most of them I'm just going to be off the cuff. So let's jump right into it. All right, so our first question actually comes from Diana, who did not comment on the video, but she just straight up asked me, what is the most ratchet fragrance I've ever smelled? To this day, in terms of fragrances that I've smelled that was just literally just disgusting to me. Some people are gonna hate me for this, but I'm gonna have to say Kuros from the House of Yves Saint Laurent. I cannot stand that fragrance. It smells like a men's public restroom. It smells like urinal cakes. It just smells. I don't see why a man would want to smell like that. I've never had it dry down on my skin. I've only ever smelled the opening, so that's all I could say about that, but I can't stand that stuff. Moving on. This question comes from Yolo Toure. I'm not really sure how to say your name, man, but I've seen you around quite a bit. Great video, man. Was wondering if you have any difficulty selling certain fragrances that you may have had an emotional attachment to but don't use anymore. Definitely. As you guys might know if you've been watching my videos as of late, I have gotten rid of a lot of my fragrances. I mean, we're talking a good 40 bottles I've kind of moved out of the collection, and some of those were kind of tough because, you know, this has been over maybe the past 6 months, and some of those I've had since I really started collecting. So yeah, naturally you remember, like, you try to remember why you initially were drawn to it, why you bought it, and then those things kind of make it difficult to just let it go. But you realize, hey, I haven't worn this thing in 3 months. I'm probably not going to wear it anytime soon, so that's just my logic. I let it go. Next, this question comes from Zeke Sinatra. Zeke says he's wearing John Varvatos vintage, and he says this might be his new signature. Happy to hear that, man. It is a great one. Stay Fresh Productions, do you produce things like music as well? That's a great question. I am a musician, as many of you probably know, but some of you maybe you don't know. That's primarily what I do. I'm a musician. Jazz is my emphasis, but I play a lot of other things. I don't really say I produce music per se in terms of like being a producer. I don't really do that, but I do compose music. I have recorded my own music before, so I'm always making music in some way, all the time, pretty much every day. So yeah, that's that. This question comes from Chris, aka Mr. Siage. He says, how does one become as cool as you are? Chris, I'm not cool. In fact, I try my very best in every single video to be as uncool as I can. And that is the key. Coming up here, this is Federn12. What's been one thing that surprised you about being on YouTube? Can be good or bad. Love your videos, man. All the best. Thank you. One thing that's really surprised me. To be honest, it's this entire journey in general. Since starting a YouTube channel to make videos about fragrances, honestly, I did that just to kind of see what would happen. It was kind of an experiment. So one of the biggest things that surprised me is the fact that my channel has grown to what it is now. When I started it, I never even conceived of the idea of having 100 subscribers. So that will tell you about how surprised I am. And I could go into the negative, but we're going to focus on the positive. So that's what's really surprised me about being here. Next, this is from Andre Garibay. Whether already in the 80s? Question, has your brother gotten more into frags since you're really into them? Just asking because I'm a twin. Both me and my bro are into frags. I will say yes. It seems that my brother Jeff, if you haven't seen him, then go back some videos. He's in a few videos of mine. He has got more into fragrances. He will talk every now and then, and he'll tell me about some things he found that he really likes. something he smelled out in the store or whatever, and some that he's acquired. So yeah, he's been kind of diving in a little bit more. Next here, Travis L asks, is there a fragrance that you love but you would never wear it in public? I would say no. Generally fragrances that I really love, that if I really genuinely love it, then they're fragrances that I wear. There are a lot of fragrances that I really like, but I just could not wear them in public. A few would be actually Gucci Guilty Absolute, believe it or not. The more I've been smelling that, the more I like it. Also, L'air du Desert Marocain from the House of Andy Tower. I really dig that, but I just don't see myself wearing it in public. One more, honestly, and many of you will probably hate me for this, but I hope not, because there's no reason to. That would be Amouage's Jubilation 25 for men. That one, I just find it so elegant and beautiful, but the oud, it has that bitter stank to it that I just don't see myself being next to somebody and having them smell me and be like,
it smells like you put something fruity on, but also that maybe you didn't wipe well.
I love the scent though. Let's move on. Cool video as usual. This is from Gig. I love that. It's just so simple. Question. You play a mean trumpet, and I'd like to know if you've logged in some time on the road or not so much. Actually, yes. I've done quite a bit of touring as a jazz musician and in other styles as well. Pretty much all over the United States. Been through some parts of Mexico as well. Been to Cuba. I mean, music has taken me to so many places in this world. There's many more I'd like to go to, but yes, I've done a lot of traveling and a lot of playing in a lot of different places. Mauricio Colasso, Scent of the Day Prada Luna Rosa Carbon sprayed throughout the day. His performance is trash. Unfortunately, it is. The thing lasts like 5 hours on me. Question, is there a scent that brings you back to your childhood or puts you in a specific place that makes you smile? I know scent is a powerful memory triggering sense. Curious to see what yours is. I'm sure you meant just a scent in general, maybe not necessarily a fragrance, but I can't really think of one right now. To be honest, maybe dry erase markers. That brings me back to elementary school. But in regards to fragrances, my mom has been wearing the same fragrance as long as I can remember. I know it's Red. That is literally the name of the fragrance. It's Red. It might be from Beverly Hills. Yeah, I'll put a picture of it. She's been wearing that for years and years and years and years, and that scent will always remind me of her. It's a really gorgeous scent. It's very elegant, very up class. Something I'll never forget. Adam Sandoval, and he has a hefty question here. He's gonna make me think about this one. Scent of the day was Jean Paul Gaultier Popeye Eau Fraiche. Good one. Question, if you could make your own fragrance, how would you make it smell? What specific notes would it have, and what would you call it? Okay, that's a hard question to answer, to be honest. I would want my fragrance to smell kind of fresh, maybe almost barbershop-y, but I would love to have some kind of maybe underlying oriental or gourmand element to it. I can throw together a few of my favorite notes, but that doesn't mean that it would smell good. It would depend on who's composing it and how experienced they are, to be honest. Maybe some lavender, maybe some citruses, maybe like mandarin or something like that. Maybe a floral element to it, like maybe geranium, maybe some aldehydes, open it up a little bit. And maybe in the base, maybe some leather, definitely some vanilla. I would love that. Maybe even some kind of musk. I don't know. That's right off the cuff. I have no idea if that would be any good, but in my head, I think it would be. So we'll go with that. Moving on. Nick Lintile, Snowy in Jersey, had to bring out Mugler Pure Havana. All right. I've been looking around for storage options, and I'm curious to see what you think about using a wine cooler to store fragrances. I don't have any experience with that. I know a lot of guys who do that, and they seem to swear by it, keeping their fragrances chilled. To be honest, I don't think it's necessary. If you live in an abode that is climate controlled, that you can really control the temperature, as long as you store your fragrances in a cool, dark, and dry place, like a drawer, or a pantry or something like that, out of the bathroom, out of a space where the temperature will fluctuate a lot, I think you'll be good. I don't think you need to worry about a wine cooler. But if you got one already, it doesn't hurt to experiment. Moving on. This is from Kiposo. I would love to hear any recommendations from you on jazz music, and how did you get influenced by it? I've been exposed to jazz pretty much my whole life. Both my parents are involved in music in some way. My dad especially into jazz, and he's the one who got me listening and also got me interested in actually playing jazz from a very young age. In terms of recommendations, I can give you some of my favorite artists, both old and new. I would check out Miles Davis if you haven't, very quintessential in my opinion. And in terms of newer guys, check out Walter Smith III, one of my favorite saxophonists and composers right now. We'll go with that for now. Darren Newell, when are you bringing your brother back so he could give you his thoughts on some of your new synths? And Tired of Fools agrees. Says great one. Unfortunately, I was going to have another video with my family out a few months back. I recorded one over around Thanksgiving time, but this was back when I was still doing it on my iPhone, and I was using this crappy mic, and the mic wasn't all the way plugged in for the 20-minute video, so the audio was just horrid and it was just unusable. So that was a great video. Honestly, it was hilarious, and I wish I could have shown it to you guys, but it was just unusable. So I still have it, but it's not gonna see the light of day. So hopefully sometime, maybe this summer, we'll see. Jesse McRae, what fragrance do you wear when you're in a happy mood and when you're in an unhappy mood? That's an interesting question. I don't know if it's that definitive for me. In terms of happy moods, that I usually wear fragrances I think that are stronger and that are more present. I might reach for Dior Sauvage Eau de Parfum or something like that, something that's going to project more when I'm in a happier mood. When I'm in an unhappy mood, if I am going to wear a fragrance, generally it's going to be something that's real subdued. Like I might throw on a couple sprays of Creed's Original Vetiver. Doesn't really smell like fragrance. It's going to be pretty subdued, pretty low-key, just laying back in the cut. Yeah, I would say that. It's kind of a crude way to put it. It may not be that definitive as I said, but that's the best I can do for now. Hope that's all right. Zhao, and you've been on my channel for a long time, man. You've been commenting. I always appreciate your comments, but I honestly do not know how to properly pronounce your first name. So please leave me a comment on this video saying how to properly pronounce it, phonetically, so I can say it, because I'm butchering it now, I know. So I'm just going to say Mr. Lima here. Ask, what fragrance made you dive into the niche perfumery? Well, the first niche fragrance I ever smelled was actually Creed Aventus, which I really loved, but was kind of like thrown off by because I'd never smelled anything like it. But the real fragrance that made me truly intrigued by niche perfumery was Reflection Man from Amouage. That's the one that I was like, man, there's some depth to it that I wasn't really getting out of my designer fragrances that I had smelled thus far. Catherine Frazier asks, if you were to do a bespoke scent, who would you approach? Do you have a favorite house or composer? In terms of a perfumer that I've really been digging most of the work that I've come across from them, I'd have to say Sidonie Lancaster, who I've mentioned a few times in my past videos. I really love her stuff. She's the one who's done a lot of the killing fragrances like Black Phantom, Straight to Heaven, maybe Vodka on the Rocks. I know she's done Frappans Luministe. Some really just beautiful scents that have really captured me. So that's probably as far as I could go. I would approach her and be like, hey, what do you think? Let's see. Alexander Bender, how did you learn to smell fragrance notes and detect them in scents you smell the first time? Alexander, that's honestly something I'm still learning to do. It really just comes with the more time you spend smelling, the more time you spend really looking for particular facets of a fragrance, and especially between and among different fragrances. That's just the more you develop your nose. Now, I haven't really been one to truly dive into oils and really just smelling pure essential oils and distilled oils and getting the raw materials. So I'd like to do that maybe sometime, but just haven't really invested in it. But that's what I would say. Just the more you smell, the more you have a focus in what you're smelling. Like I'm going to check out, the note of plum in this fragrance as well as this one and see if you can detect similarities. But even then, depending on how a fragrance is composed and how it is blended, a note can smell differently in two different fragrances. So there's a lot of variables, but just keep smelling. Sonny Hansen asks, what's a fragrance that is hyped or overhyped that you just don't care for? And he says La Nuit is one that he doesn't really care for. For me, Bulgari's Aqua Amara. I don't like that stuff at all. It smells like some kind of orange toilet cleaner. It's the sea saltiness of it just really throws it off for me. I don't get the hype on that one. I can't stand wearing it. It makes me nauseous. So that'd be the one. And last question here. This is from Scent Bubbles. My question is, what is your favorite song to play and which fragrance matches the mood it evokes? My favorite song to play will always be this old jazz standard called All the Things You Are. Just has been one of my favorites for many years. Just a kind of a cool, easygoing, kind of romantic song, and a fragrance that puts me in that mindset. Would have to be one of my first loves, and that would be Yves Saint Laurent's L'Homme. I always got a feeling for that one. Anyway, we're going to end it there. This video is long enough. Once again, thank you to everyone who left me a question. We will do this at some other time. I'll get to more of your questions, but thank you for listening and watching thus far. I know this is a long one. Yeah, more exciting stuff coming up. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you guys in the next one.